Welcome to Layman's Lingo. Do fake apologies count? Is England really England anymore? And why can we forgive those that offend us? Now, before we begin, this is actually quite annoying. I am really not good with this little technology thing. Apparently, if you have too much space on your device that's occupied, it will record all the way till the end of your recording and then tell you that it doesn't save it. So that happened. Plus, you also feel a little bit crazy talking to yourself in a room with a camera by yourself. But like I told Travis Dobbins today, I said, hey, I've never had a hard time covering all the points and all the sides of a conversation. Let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, I want to talk about Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I promise I'm not going to beat a dead horse. However, it's very interesting how the left does this. They don't actually apologize for the issue that people have. They rather apologize sort of for something else and say that they didn't do what you think they did. Also, you're not a good Christian if you don't forgive them for doing what they actually did. And Jimmy Kimmel, who's not a very funny comedian, however, has done a lot of things that are offensive. The biggest thing that he did was the lying. No, people don't really care if you're opposed to Charlie Kirk. We get it. I understand. People are opposed on different sides. That's not the problem. The problem is when you accuse the person of being a MAGA conservative who shot him, when all of the evidence is completely contrary to that and lying to you, to your people. Now, why is this important? This is very important because as the left is saying that there is no political violence on the left side, when you lie, even a lie like that, saying that this thing was from the right, you keep pushing it onto the right, saying that the right is the one doing all the political violence. And hence, what does that encourage? That encourages more political violence, because if the right is offending you and coming after you constantly, and they're the ones that are committing all the violence, then you are at right. In fact, you probably should fight back with violence. And that's what we're seeing, even to the point now where, I didn't mention this on the first run through, but the violence at the ICE location. Amazing. This person who at first everyone was saying might be a conservative, supposedly because he shot the ICE detainees, which also doesn't make any sense, because if they're detained by ICE, obviously ICE is doing their job. Why would any conservative have a problem with the detainees at that point? I don't understand that logic, but beside the point. His bullets were inscribed with anti-ICE stuff. Do we see a pattern going on here, anyone? Along that note, though, England is literally being taken over by the Muslims as we speak, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse to great extremes. And why does that matter to us? Because it's been coming over here to America. The mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, and this is talking a little bit behind time because he said this a while ago, the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan said that if you don't like Sharia law, you're not welcome in his town. I mean, he's been trying to walk it back since then, but do we not think we have a problem when England has literally been reconfigured to accommodate all the Muslims, and they're getting outraged and irritated with all the people that live there and have lived there for millennia at this point, for not accommodating them in every little shape and way that they want with all their rules and laws? It just gets crazy. And part of that is the violence that comes with it. And I know people will immediately go to gun violence in America, but the problem is you can't even say it's gun violence, because in countries that don't have guns, they use other things like knives or cars and vehicles of all kinds. In fact, they've had a major problem with that in England, to the point where you can't even carry a kitchen knife. There's certain areas, I think of London, where if you buy a kitchen knife, you can't take it home with you. Now, you can buy a kitchen knife. I believe it has to be delivered. I have no idea how that works, because if you're caught in the street carrying a kitchen knife, you're going to be arrested. And what if it's your old granny walking down the street and she just her kitchen knife broken, she needed to get a new one? Well, there she is. She's arrested for how dare she carry that dangerous weapon. Are we getting the point here where maybe it's not the weapon that's the problem, or the vehicle that's the problem? Maybe it's an ideology. And the ideology that's not centered around Christ is an ideology that is going to lead to problems. It's going to lead to violence. It's going to lead to chaos. And you say, well, are you just advocating the Christian faith? Well, yes, actually I am. But that's beside the point. What I'm saying is beliefs that you have in Christ bleed into other things. For example, even if someone doesn't believe in Christ, but they are on the more conservative side of the political sphere, they're going to do Christ-like things, Christian things. And we notice this a lot with a lot of atheists that are on the conservative side. Now, some of them have converted over time, but that whole thing is you can't take away the violence from the people if you don't teach them why that's wrong, why that's bad, and make them part of society. Make them become part of you. Charlie Kirk actually had a meeting with a man who calls himself the apostate prophet about this very issue with the rise of Islam in America. Unfortunately, Charlie Kirk's death cut short any results out of that we would have seen. We obviously didn't hear anything from him on it. But the apostate prophet, and I forget what his real name is, but I go by his YouTube handle or his channel handle. He had made it very clear to Charlie Kirk of the rising danger of the Islamist culture that's arising in America. This is definitely a people that want to come into your country, and they want nothing to do with assimilating into your country. They want you to assimilate to them. They don't want to become like you. They want you to become like them, or else. And the or else is the problem. Not just them wanting to be the way that they want. I mean, a lot of cultures have come into America and have kept their heritage. But that's not the problem, is when they won't become part of society and you have to accommodate them. Now, that's kind of the brief topic of issues in the social sphere. One last thing I kind of wanted to bring up, and I completely forgot about it before, but there's some major garbage going down in South Korea. The South Korea government, the new one that they have there, has changed completely on the idea of freedom of religion and so on. And I can't even imagine some of the stuff that's going on. There's been pastors getting arrested and all kinds of violence against them. And I had no idea. I had heard that Charlie Kirk had been over in Korea, but I had no idea. It's nowhere in the news will you see any of this stuff. No. But thankfully, it's being brought to the front by some people, including people like Glenn Beck, where they're trying to bring it forward of just the issues that are out there in South Korea. You have no idea. You think South Korea, okay, of course they're free. I mean, they're a close ally of America. Why would they not be free? Why would they not have freedom there? And they're literally getting their freedoms taken away, and they're becoming this way because of the influence of China. Apparently, they're really, really closely allying with China, and they're trying to crack down on all of that troublesome stuff called freedom. And part of that is, if you believe in God, you believe in certain inalienable rights that matter, that then become reality. Well, they are reality, but they become to you such that they have to deal with it. And if you take away God, then you get to decide what those rights that everyone has are. Now, this video is going a little bit faster than my last video because I had my mind more into it until I got disappointed by having the realization that my whole video was lost to the ether. But I want to get to my last topic of this video, and that is the idea of forgiveness. How can we forgive someone who did something so horrible? And when you ask yourself that question, you think about Erica Kirk and forgiving the person who shot, or the man that shot her husband. And I remember seeing that at the time, and you wonder, is that performative? Is she doing it because she's just supposed to? Like, how could you do that? And then you ask, and then people were even saying this, how could I forgive someone who killed my wife? Or in some other people's cases, husband, whatever, right? How can you do that? And immediately we kind of think in our mind that once they're forgiven, there's no consequences, right? But that's not the case. In Psalms 51, 3-4, it says, "For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee, thee only, have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mayest be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when thou judgest." Now, I'm not really trying to quote too much scripture because I don't want people to be bored, but I want to point out something that David's saying here. He's saying that he sinned against God, and that really it's only against God that he sinned. And the truth behind it is that other people would want forgiveness in the situation that David was involved in. However, we have to look at where the authority comes from to forgive. Where does the authority come from to forgive? Well, if you believe in God, it comes from God. And he gives the power to forgive. And when we forgive, we're forgiving our part of it, right? We're forgiving the offense that happens to us, our side of the offense. Because when you forgive, you understand that since there is an authority, the authority has to do something, right? That they're going to do something. Romans 12:19 says, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourself, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." And we've heard that before where it says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Now, this is referring, when it says it is written, it's referring to Deuteronomy 32 in the Old Testament, where it comes along the same lines where God will handle things. Now, how do we tie this in? If the vengeance is God a vengeful God? No. But God is a just God. And this is something that even Charlie Kirk pointed out very often. God is a just God. And we understand that in a society, in a world, you have to have justice if you're going to survive. If the society is going to survive. And God provides that by being the vengeance that we need in our lives. To God is the vengeance, and to government is the sword to carry out that vengeance, to keep the land clean. When there is no punishment for your wrongdoings, then there is no reason for the land to be clean. And there's a tier that happens where it's God that is the one that holds ultimate authority, and he gives that to government to carry the sword to handle those issues and to deal with things like capital crime. Romans 13:4 says, "For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil." So now, with all of those tiers and all that thought, let's put it back into the social sphere, and we say, okay, now we've held this Bible, we've talked about the Bible. Well, how does that apply back into the social sphere? Well, this is how it applies. Erica Kirk can forgive the person who killed her husband because that's her side of it. She's saying, I forgive you for the wrong done to me. However, the consequences are still there for the action. And how do we know that? Because God is the one to whom all things are due and owed, right? And he then gives that authority to the government to do capital punishment and to execute the laws that we as society come together with. And God gives us a lot of guidance in the Bible about what those laws should be, right? We know this from our rights, even from the Declaration of Independence. We get our rights and our inalienable rights from God. God is the one that provides all those things to us, right? So in society, go back to society, bringing God and society together, very, very, very important to keep them together, hand in hand. Charlie Kirk especially was someone who understood that they fit together, fit together like a glove. You can't have one without the other. So then what is the point? And again, I remember thinking it was kind of weird when she apologized to him. I was like, why would you do that? Why is that something you would even say? Is that even real? How can you do that? Simply put like this, for humans, it is good for us to let it go and forgive. Ultimately, that's the answer. We have to forgive. When wrong is done to us, if we don't forgive the wrong, then we're reliving that over and over again. We don't have to forget, but we have to forgive, and our heart then won't be bound up in that pain and sorrow and that hatred forever. We're given a place to heal then because we've acknowledged the problem, we've acknowledged the issue, and we've forgiven it. We've put it away, right? We put it away from our hearts where we've let it go because we've forgiven. And it's for us. It's for our healing. It's for Erica Kirk's healing over her husband's death, not for that young man. That young man, if he's not saved, will die and go to hell because he's going to be sent to capital punishment. But it's for her that forgiveness is made. On her part. She gives it, but it's for her. It's like being bitter with someone. When you're angry or bitter with someone, you keep that inside your soul, and you can be bitter at someone for a long time, and go and tell them, hey man, I was really offended with you by when you did this. And they probably have no clue. They probably have been sleeping the best sleep they've ever had in their entire life, having no clue that you were upset or offended. But you suffered that entire time. So now forgiveness is really for you. It's more for us than it is for those that offended you. And something how I try to put it in this way is when you my dad told me this way. He said, when you buy something that's not good to eat and you still eat it, you've paid for it twice, right? And that's the idea here, is you're going to suffer for that person from the consequences of what they've done in your life. but being focused on them and not forgiving them. And again, and please, do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying I could do this. I'm not saying that if something harsh or mean or horrible was done to me, that I could forgive that I could overcome it, or that I would have the courage and the strength to do that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about idealistically here, guys. I'm not saying that I would be able to do any of this, and I would hope I would be able to, but I'm thankful that I've never had to encounter something so horrible or so bad in my life that I had to forgive someone like that. But what I'm saying is, I'm trying to explain what she did. It's for her heart, so that she can move on, so that Erica Kirk can have a life, moving away from that horrible tragedy. Now, before I go, I have one comment that I had that was not what you would say family, right? So I have family; they've been very good commenting, and that's actually really helped, and I've appreciated that. But I kind of wanted to address the comment. I actually thought it was fun. It says, Charlie set a great example of loving people no matter the difference. He expressed his faith, but I never saw him bash any other denomination. I don't know if it's a she or he, but this person was referring to the fact that I had said in my initial video that I wanted to do this because I didn't want the sphere to be overwhelmed by Roman Catholics. When I'm saying that, I'm not saying that I don't want Catholic people in the conservative movement. This is more social sphere now that I'm trying to go into, right? More the worldly sphere. What I'm saying is we lost a voice that wasn't that way, and there's a great push from the Roman Catholic faith into this sphere. What I'm trying to say is that since I don't believe that their faith is the same, I want to make sure the voice of Charlie Kirk and his beliefs in Christianity are maintained, and I don't want that to be lost, okay? So he said, I never saw him bash any other denomination, just what he believed, or just why he believed. He did the same with politics and folks in the media. He was loyal, and his friends were all different in small things, and even some folks were not Christians or not conservatives. So I do not know where you'll go with your channel, but do it for yourself and use it to help sort out your own thoughts and grow in your own knowledge. Now, that's true. I am doing this channel for myself, and I say that in a sense of myself as in I feel like it's the right thing to do. And I thank you for your comment. It is going to help me sort out my own thoughts. It's already helping me to grow on my own and help me to grow my knowledge. I have a desire now to learn like I've never had a desire before. I've had a desire to put away watching things that I've never had before. I would just put something on while I'm working or doing whatever else, and around the house, and listen to something or watch something. And this has allowed me, this has helped me, this is because I'm so totally inadequate for this job. It helps me to focus on being adequate. I'm running a little long here, so I'm going to try to cut this as short as I can. And what I want to say here is, in the conservative movement, there are people, to answer this question, of differences. There are differences, and we accept them all into the conservative movement. In fact, we encourage them to come. But what I'm saying is, we need to be able to reach people, and that's why I've changed my motto. My motto, or my slogan for the show, is now everyone reach one. And why? Because not just win one, you can win something by accident. But if you reach out to someone, if you actually reach someone, it's because you're doing something to reach out to them. Christian, if you haven't been out there soul winning, if you haven't been knocking on doors trying to reach people, are you really convinced of what you believe? Have you really been doing what you should? If you haven't done it, I encourage you, go do it again. Get back out there. If you're someone who's out there and you have your beliefs, your conservative beliefs, but you're afraid to say something, study, learn. I'm studying, I'm learning. I'm not even close to being where I should be. I'm not a million years from it. I think Charlie Kirk is a billion miles ahead of me. And yet he was constantly learning and constantly growing, and I'm going to have to do the same. And I'm excited for that. I'm very excited for that. Let's all keep dipping our hands back into the wealth of knowledge and growing. Let's continue to reach people around us, and please win someone today, win someone tomorrow, win someone whether it's to the conservative movement of. I'm not saying conservative movement because I think that's the end all be all, but just the beliefs and the faiths and the freedoms that come in that, and the inalienable rights that are given to us by God are in that sphere recognized. Reach someone today, please. Please go out there and reach someone. And I shall try myself. Now I'm going to say something I haven't done yet. And I'm trying to remember. I forgot last time. But if you like the video, please like it, subscribe, and comment. All of those things help to get it out there, and I will get better as my channel grows, I'm sure, and that is my goal. I appreciate you listening to Layman's Lingo. Thank you.